Good morning, beautiful people. Just wanted to make a really quick video to show how I use this ruler image and this protractor image to go from a free body diagram to a force addition diagram, a qualitative free body diagram to a quantitative scale force addition diagram. So here's what we know. We know that the mass of the object is 1 kilogram, so we know that the force of gravity is going to be 10 newtons. We know that the applied forces that is being pushed on the box up the ramp is 10 newtons. These are quantities that have been provided, and we know that that force is parallel to the ramp. We know that the force of friction is 35 degrees below the horizontal with respect to the surface line. We also know that the normal force is 55 degrees above the horizontal with respect to this surface line. And one thing I encourage students to do is to always draw as many angles in as they can so that they know the directions of the forces relative to the other forces and also relative to the horizontal surface line and also relative to the surface line of the ramp. And so the more information you have about the directions of these forces, the less it sort of in some ways I think decreases the chances that you'll orient them incorrectly on your force addition diagram. So this is ultimately the end result, but I just wanted to, and just so sometimes seeing is believing, but I wanted to just go through how to make that. In the spirit of making this video short, as short as possible, I wanted to already draw the force of gravity. And so one way you could do that is just to take your ruler and to say that, let's just say you have 0. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centimeters. The thing to remember about this ruler image is that you can rotate it, but you can also compress it and expand it by touching the corners. And so we don't want to compress or expand it after we've started to use it as our scale, or to draw things to scale. That'll just change things up. The protractor is not really, I don't think it should matter. But at the same time, I just don't mess with the sizes of these images as I'm drawing the scale force distribution diagram. Should have probably said that the scale is going to be 1 centimeter corresponds with 2 newtons of force. So the force of gravity, typically don't have to use the protractor, drawing the force straight down. And then here's the next thing is we know, and I'm just going to do this a few different ways. We can come to the protractor and we can draw a force that is 35 degrees above the horizontal. And what I like to do is just sort of instead of trying to draw it to be precise, I typically just keep it like this. And then what you can do now that you've drawn the vector is we can actually another thing you can do is, now that I'm dragging this thing, is you can actually do something like this. Right, 35 degrees. We now indicated the angle. And one thing that we could do is we can grab all of this by just drawing around it. And we can take this vector and the angle and we can write this over here, and we can actually change the style very fast if it wouldn't freeze, if this program would comply. We can draw this really fast. Oh, I think that was my fault. Is this thing freezing? Oh, this program is frozen. Well, this is awesome. It's how you love things to work when you're trying to give a demo. That's okay. We could just kill it and bring it back to life. Okay, so here we are. We're back, and we can just draw around this. We can tap on it. We can press style, and we can change it to 35 degrees. And then what we can do is we can take the ruler, we can rotate it so that it's somewhat parallel with the line that we've drawn, which represents the applied force. that's at an angle of 35 degrees. And what we could do is we could take the individual vector that we've drawn, making sure that we know that it needs to stay at 35 degrees, and we can actually draw it to scale. So what we could say is we could rotate this to be parallel. Now we could argue that this is parallel. We can align the or let's just say 0 centimeters here. We know that that applied force is also going to be 5 centimeters. So what we could do is we could tap on this vector. We know that it needs to sort of stay at 35 degrees. So we could go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bam. Okay. Now, I know it's a lot faster once you've had some practice, and I'm certainly no expert. So please, I'm very much in the beginning stages of this, but I do find that we can sort of use these tools to make this just a little bit easier. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to draw a force that's 90 degrees with respect to the applied force. And so I'm just trying to get through this really fast just because I don't want this video to be 10 minutes long. And so for some reason that didn't register as an arrow. And so we know that this needs to be 90 degrees, so we can overextend the line. I encourage kids to overextend the line because they're using a pencil. We can move this, and then we can quickly fight back and move it right back. So come on. There we go. That looks to be about 90 degrees. Again, it's really fast to just change the color. I do that because I like this blue background. I think it looks really cool. And so let me just do this a little bit better so I could say that the applied force, actually, it's just faster if I do this. Just copy this, paste it here. Okay, well, it's what happens when you get obsessed with this stuff. You end up trying to save time and you end up just making it more confusing. But I could just say the applied force there. Okay, I can actually copy this. If you practice, it gets a lot faster. Just copy this, put this right here, and just because I'm trying to make it look the same, we now know that this angle is 55 degrees. We know that this angle is 90 degrees. And we also know, interestingly, that this last angle is going to have to be 90 degrees as well. So what we could say is we can rotate this to a line here. And again, it doesn't have to be right there. It really doesn't. You could draw it and then just drag and drop it. So we know that that's going to be there. And then we just do our little fun drag, drag. And this gives us feedback about our FAD and how we can draw it to scale. We know that the vector addition diagram needs to stop where it starts. So what that seems to indicate, and we know that the directions of these vectors are correct. So what that seems to indicate to me is, duplicate, don't want to do that, is we know that this needs to stop where it starts. And so we can sort of, don't love that. I'm trying to not finagle this as much. Let's make this 90 degrees. And let's bring this here. I mean, this looks pretty good. Only thing I would say is, again, I'm being a little bit picky, but this seems to be good. Okay, so now we can come back and say that this angle is 90 degrees. We could say that this is, oh, come on, good morning. You could say that this is going to be here. Okay, and so now we can come back and we can measure, right? We can measure this, and what we could say is, well, we knew that the first two forces, we knew the lengths of those vectors here. We know that this is about 4 centimeters, so I hope that was clear. And then we know that this is going to be about 2 centimeters. So I guess that's a little off. So let me see here. I must have made a mistake last time. It's going to be about F equals 2 centimeters. equals 4 newtons. So I'll just have to change that. Just double check all my work afterwards. And so this sort of gives us a good understanding. And then you can also double check here by rotating this and making sure that the angle is at the right direction. So this seems to be at 35 degrees. We zoom in. One trick is when you grab an image, it becomes transparent anyways. So we could see that this angle is a little bit over 35, but honestly, I'm not too worried about it. These things aren't going to be perfect. It's not perfect on paper. It's certainly not perfect in this program, but I get some understanding of how these forces are related. And then you can just grab any of these and duplicate them and add them in a different fashion. So this is my favorite part is, let's say, again, we wouldn't be able to do this necessarily, but we could add them tip to tail. And just see that no matter how you add the vectors, they're always going to stop. The vector diagram is going to stop where it started. Oh, hello. This is just really sloppy, but I think you all understand what I'm trying to do. I'm going to draw this, put this over here. Oh, God. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's my little quick video. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I like it. I don't love it. But it's definitely helpful in helping the students visualize that vectors can be added in any way, and then showing them how to use a protractor on the whiteboard. I find it's really hard, so I can actually show them how they would measure and how they would use the protractor visually, and that's been really helpful instead of walking around and showing the students one-on-one. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed, and have a great Sunday. Happy Halloween.